incredible. Whoa! Oh, and around goes Ross Chastain. And Denny Hamlin, and Chastain wants to come across the line in reverse, just like AJ did. And he has. My goodness.
NASCAR gave us a worthy finish while F1 put us all to sleep. All this and more next on the Pit and Paddock Racing Show. Welcome back to the Pit and Paddock Racing Show. Dan's on a super secret undercover assignment, so I've brought in a guest host, Studio Cat. Dan's going to check in later if he can find a secure location. Can you say hello, Studio Cat? Studio Cat. Hey, can you say hello? Oh, there he goes. No, you gotta lay down. No, you have to lay down. Right there. Hey, right there. Formula One went to Singapore for the Try to Stay Awake Grand Prix, the second most boring race after Monaco. George Russell won after no lead changes, no safety cars, and almost no passing. Verstappen managed second, and Norris in third. Race highlights. Lap 1, Lando does a bump and pass on teammate Oscar Piastri, jumping to third and giving Piastri front wing damage. Piastri immediately whined to Mom asking for Lando to be grounded, but team boss Zach Brown refused to intervene. And what? Studio Cat says Zach has turned Team McLaren into Team McNanny. Charles Leclerc jumped 2 spots to 5th, and that was about it for passing for the rest of the night. We all settled down for some warm cider and a nap. Lap 28, Fernando Alonso had a very slow stop after a stuck wheel nut, and then he had his Kimi Räikkönen moment.
34 to go.
If you speak to me every lap, I will disconnect already.
Lap 45, Hulkenberg found the wall, but managed to keep going. We didn't even get a virtual safety car for that one. Lap 56, Ferrari finds a new way to fail. Leclerc let Hamilton by to try and attack Kimi Antonelli, but 5 laps later, Hamilton's brake fails, and he falls back, struggling to finish ahead of Alonso. He later got a 5-second penalty and finished behind Alonso anyway. In Formula One news, McLaren wrapped up their second Constructors' Championship in Singapore, but jilted driver Oscar Piastri cut his radio off on team boss Zach Brown and refused to join the team's podium party, angry over his clash with teammate Lando Norris. Our undercover sources tell us that Piastri went home and moved all of Lando's stuff out of their room. Next, Formula One is coming to America for the United States Grand Prix in Texas, where everything is big except the Immigrant Welcome Center. I know.
Give me 15 minutes, Mr. Socks. Can you be a good studio cat for 15 minutes?
You want out? Hey, here you go. Studio Cat. We're back, and Studio Cat has abandoned me. But we'll move on to NASCAR. NASCAR went to the Charlotte Roval, and SVG went 5 for 5 on road courses, confirming rumors that he's just a long-term ringer. Larson beat all other playoff drivers to second, and Christopher Bell hung in for third. Lap 1 of the Roval, Kyle Busch got his crash out of the way early, and then headed to the garage for some antidepressants. And meanwhile, SVG went to the front. Lap 5, former Garden Gnome Tyler Reddick decides to Bo Duke the bus stop chicane and got all 4 tires off the ground. Drivers later voted to rename it the Hazard County chicane since everyone was jumping over it. Stage 1, of course, went to SVG. Little Ty managed third. Maybe he should consider sports car racing instead of ovals. Lap 33, Hocevar locks up into the chicane, takes out part-time accountant Austin Cindric. Race keeps going. SVG started stage 2 back in 10th after a slow stop, but by lap 42, he's back up to P1 where everybody expects him to be. At the end of the stage, he pitted early and handed the win off to Blaney. By lap 58, Dylan went into the tires, and we finally get an earned yellow. Lap 63, Larson finally makes it up front and battles SGB for the lead. Looks like it's going to be a good race, but not for long. After a round of pit stops and some green flag laps, SVG builds a 24-second lead. But never fear. Another slow stop, and he loses his lead. 14 laps to go. Larson does a bump ago on SVG, puts him in the marbles, and takes the lead. Everybody thinks we're going to have a different winner, but it doesn't last. SVG works his way past and gaps the field once again. But the action wasn't over. Joey Baby and Chastain are fighting for the last transfer spot into the next round of playoffs. Joey's up 2 points, but with 12 laps to go, he gambles big and pits for new tires. And he goes 7 points down. Studio Cat said, that looks like a Ferrari move. Yes, that does. That's something Ferrari would do. Except, maybe it works for Joey. But Joey's got to fight his way back up and pray that enough cars pass Chastain that he can at least tie him in points. 2 laps to go, and Joey's still down 2 points. But he can't catch the next car in 2 laps. 1 lap to go, and Chastain's still 1 point ahead. Victory is in sight for Chastain, but then he blows the final chicane, crashes into Hammy, spins them both around. Chastain and Hammy then cross the finish line, racing backwards. But Joey just passes Chastain at the finish, leaving Chastain tied on points, but Joey wins on the tiebreaker because he finished 1 point ahead. This has got to be the most exciting road course in the SVG era. Post-race interview, Chastain looked like he was going to cry on TV. And honestly, if it hadn't been for an earlier speeding penalty, he might have beat Joey. Paint schemes for the Rovel. Good paint scheme. I went with Ware, number 51, because it kind of looks like the TC's helicopter from the Magnum PI show. I have something from Dan. He says he went with Priest in the number 6 Mama Made Pizza Rolls, because who wouldn't go with Mama Made Pizza Rolls? I don't know. Bad paint schemes. It's got to be Lucky Lloyd Byron in the number 25 Blood Cancer car, because it looks like confetti coming out of a unicorn's butt and turning into blood. That sounds more like a horror movie, but it was an awful looking car. And Dan says that he went with Hocevar in the number 77 Moto Casino car, because that car was just butt ugly. It was another, looks like the 90s exploded car. On to the NASCAR playoff report as they're down to the round of 8. Knocked out this week were part-time accountant Austin Cindric, former Garden Gnome Tyler Reddick, Bubba, and Chastain, who went backwards and still couldn't win. Let's compare that to the pit and paddock predictions. Dr. Goon, me, I predicted Bubba, Elliott, Reddick, and Chastain. 3 for 4. Dan picked Cindric, Joey, Chastain, and Reddick. Also 3 for 4. So if you'd listen to us, you'd be able to afford a house right now with all of your Polymarket winnings. Top 4 going into round of 8. Hammy's seated first, followed by Blaney, Kyle, and Lucky Lord Byron in 4th. Winners at the Roval, anyone that didn't get knocked out of the playoffs. And losers, everyone that did get knocked out of the playoffs. I mean, that's pretty easy. Now it's time for the Pit and Paddock NASCAR Polymarket Playoff Betting Guide for who's going to get knocked out in the round of 8. I'm predicting Elliott because there's just too many Hendricks cars in the final drivers. Briscoe because Haas really doesn't deserve to get this far without Tony Stewart involved. Joey Baby because he's struggling. And Lucky Lord Byron. His luck's gonna run out pretty soon. Studio Cat says his predictions to get knocked out are Chase Briscoe and Chase Elliott because he hates chases. I don't blame you, Studio Cat. And he also thinks Joey Baby's gonna get knocked out because he looks wimpy, and Dave Blaney because he's got a weird name. Okay, go ahead, Studio Cat. Here, you want one more? No, you can't see my face. Studio Cat, come over here. Look, here's a treat. Okay, that's good enough. NASCAR driver Kyle Busch booted his crew chief with 7 races left in the season. After crashing out of Charlotte on lap 1, Busch admitted that their new crew chief is actually Trunk Monkey. NASCAR driver Carson Hocevar was fined $50,000 for a safety violation after revving his motor while track workers were nearby. Hocevar later said that he was sure they were coming to steal his cart. That's not, I thought we had a better punchline for that joke. Let's cut that one. Next up, NASCAR goes to Vegas for the We Need to Get Visitor Occupancy Up 400. In IndyCar news, former Penske driver Simone Pagenaud has joined the Cadillac F1 team as a sim driver. Pagenaud will be driving simulated races, just like in real life. He hasn't raced since he crashed his Indy car like 4 years ago. In other news, former FBI Director James Comey was indicted for lying to Congress after telling them that he would take their names off the Epstein client list. Starbucks has announced that it's closing 430 stores after the 25% inflation of the Biden era resulted in lower sales. Wait, I thought there was supposed to be a joke there. What? Studio Cat says the joke's on all of us. That's it for this week. Next week, it is NASCAR and nothing but NASCAR as they go to Vegas, and F1 takes a 2-week break before they come to the United States.